The Renaissance beyond Italy. Section 2. Advances in Science and Education. Many of the texts rediscovered in 1300s dealt with science. Europe could once again read works by ancient scientists in the original Greek. After learning from these works, Renaissance scholars went on to make their own scientific advances. Mathematics and scientists. Some Renaissance scientists thought mathematics could help them understand the universe. They studied ancient math texts and built on the ideas in them. In the process, they created many symbols we use in math today. These included the symbols of square root and for positive and negative numbers. Advances in mathematics led to advances in other fields of science. Scientists and architects, for example, used new mathematical formulas to design ways to strengthen buildings. Other Renaissance scientists wanted to know more about the sky and what was in it. They studied anatomy to learn about the sun, stars, and planets. Though their efforts, Renaissance scientists learned that Earth moves around the sun. Changes in education. During Renaissance, students continued to study religious subjects, but they learned about humanities as well. His story became especially important. The Renaissance scholar Petrarch warned against ignoring history. Petrarch's ideas would affect education for many years. Earth education in new ways are spreading information would take the Renaissance far beyond Italy. The spread of new ideas. Travelers and artists helped spread Renaissance ideas throughout Europe, but the development of printing played a giant role. It allowed thousands of people to read books for the first time ever. Paper and printing. Paper making spread from China to Middle East, and then to Europe. Several European factories were making paper by the 1300s, cheaper and easier to prepare. Paper soon replaced the processed animal skins on which people had written before. In the mid-1400s, a German named Johann Gutenberg developed a printing press that used movable type. That is, each letter was on a separate piece of metal. A work fitted letters into a frame, shredded ink on the letters, and then pressed a sheet of paper against the letters. An entire page was printed at once. The worker could then rearrange the letters in the frame and create new page. In 1456, Gutenberg printed the Bible in Latin. It was later translated and printed into other languages. As the Bible became increasingly available, more people learned to read. They then wanted more education. New universities. Students from around Europe traveled to Italy to study. At Italian universities, they picked up humanist ideas when they took back their own countries. Over time, new universities opened in France, Germany, and Netherlands. Because they were set up by humanists, Renaissance ideas about the value of individuals spread throughout Europe. Although only men could attend universities, Although only men could attend universities, many noble families in Italy educated their daughters at home. Some of these women married nobles for other parts of Europe and became influential. They used their positions to encourage and spread Renaissance ideas to the lands that their husbands ruled. The Northern Renaissance, as humanism spread into Northern Europe, it took on a more religious form. Scholars then focus on the history of Christianity. Not Greece or Rome. The Christian humanism was a blend of humanist and religious ideas. Many Northern scholars came to feel that the church was corrupt and did not follow Jesus' teachings. A Dutch priest named Desiderius Erasmus was the most important voice for reform. Erasmus criticized corrupt and clergy and wanted to get rid of some church rituals. And then he considered meaningless instead of rituals. He emphasized devotion to God and the teachings of Jesus. Northern Europeans also brought key changes to Renaissance art. For example, they used more realistic style than Italian artists did. People in northern paintings don't look like Greek ghosts. Instead, they are more lifelike with physical flaws. Northern artists also worked on a broader range of subjects, making many painted scenes of daily life, rather than the biblical senses and classical myths favored by Italian artists. One of the most famous artists of the Northern Renaissance was a gifted German. His name was Albrecht Dürer. Dürer studied anatomy so that he could paint people in more realistically. He showed objects in greater detail. Dürer is the most famous for his prints. A print work is a work of art that is reduced from an original. Literature beyond Italy. Writers in other countries besides Italy also included Renaissance ideas, and their works included like Dante. They wrote in language of their home countries. In Spain, Miguel de Cervantes wrote Don Quixote in the Book of Cervantes, poked fun at the romantic tales of Middle Ages. Like many writers of his day, Cervantes thought that his own time was better than the Middle Ages. Many readers considered William Shakespeare the greatest writer in the English language. Although he also wrote poems, Shakespeare is most famous for his plays. He wrote more than 30 comedies, tragedies, and histories. London audience of the late 1500s and the early 1600s packed to the theater to see his work performed. Ever since then, people have enjoyed Shakespeare's language and his understanding of humanity.